another follow-up video to my other one. It was a response to Jarhead 6, and I wasn't directly addressing Jarhead 6, and I was kind of addressing a little bit of a, I don't know, conglomeration of different people I've met over the last, over my lifetime, really. And what I was looking at was, you know, when somebody sets their priorities, and we kind of look at the survival thing, I want to look at somebody who's already got, you know, certain things straightened out. Now, living large or living small is kind of a separate issue. I live a lot smaller than I used to live, but I put a lot of pride and joy into certain things, and I don't think pride is a bad thing in the world. But when I see other people who have taken actions to humiliate me, like they want to kick me down a notch, and they say that I've put myself on a pedestal, and they have to kick that out from under me. I look at what happened early Monday morning. Somebody went to my truck and stole a lot of tools from me, and about that same time period, I was getting calls from a few people who had watched one of my videos about, you know, giving some advice to Jarhead 6 about priorities and people types of things. And there were a lot of people who were like, "Hey man, was that me? Hey, was that..." Pretty much everybody who smokes weed was calling me up and saying, almost everybody who smokes weed was calling me up and saying, "Hey man, was that me you were talking about? Was that, you know, listen, we all got different things in life, but you know, there's still something where maybe we've learned a few things about ourselves and people we're around that probably ought to get passed on at some point, especially for people like me that don't have any kids. But the other aspect of it has been that somebody really took it personally, decided to like punish me for it by going and stealing a bunch of stuff. And it's amazing how some people aren't reflecting and living on life's lessons over things that, you know, I thought kind of get sorted out in childhood, maybe. I don't know. When I was a little kid, I remember one of the neighbors who was better off than my family, I guess they wanted to do a little test. And so they had to, you know, one of the kids is eating this big, like bubble gum thing, you know, and he goes, "Okay, well, let's go play. I'm going to take my son and go play." And he tells his son, "Well, set the bubblegum thing down there on the table." And he points at me and says, "Don't you steal that." And I'm like, what a jerk. You know, it's like he didn't offer me any, and he's eating it right in front of me, and then sets it down and says, don't take any. I'm like, what a jerk. So he's down the street. I'm like, grab that stuff, and I go hide in the bushes, and I'm eating bubblegum. And for the next couple of weeks, I'm like hiding and eating bubblegum, you know, and I'm like, ooh, I stole this thing. And then over the long run, I'm kind of thinking, you know, I hadn't really been to church. I didn't understand much of that. But then over the long run, I thought, you know, I probably would have been able to prove a certain level of moral superiority, but I didn't understand that there was any value in that by not stealing. Later on, as time went on, I learned a little bit more about morality and ethics and respect for property, especially respect for other people's property. Now, would I never ever steal? Usually not. I'm going to say usually not, because if I really kind of see that somebody shortchanged me badly or stole from me, you know, we talk about evening the score, which is one of the reasons I know that a lot of other people look at the world that way. But it's also one of the reasons why I'm relatively generous and straightforward with a lot of people. And, you know, when we pray to forgive the little stuff. When you start talking about the intent to really damage somebody, though, you're kind of getting into the big stuff. And, well, so that's what happened. Somebody was offended, decided to knock you down a notch. I can tell you what's going to happen. That person's probably going to be suffering now, because a lot of those tools that I retain also for some of the somewhat charitable work that I do, but I don't do it for free. I figured out that just going around and being for free means you get exploited. So I do charge for what I do, and I charge kind of a fair rate, and I'll look around a little bit, because I just had too many people calling for help with something, or cheap help, or free help, And I'm looking around and I see a car that's in the driveway that's too nice, or I find out it's a third piece of real estate, or I find out, yeah, it's a poor little old lady in a rundown house and needs some stuff done, but the house was paid for 10 years ago and it's got $250,000 in equity. And at those points, I say, well, listen, I can't do other people a lot of good unless I'm equipped a certain way. And so I've done a lot to build that up. Over the last 2 years, I've been working at another retreat location where I was actually contributing a lot of stuff. The owner of the real estate tried to take a real bad advantage of the people that were there full time doing most of the work. And he's, you know, his family's kind of suffered for it. He thought he was going to get away with something, did a bunch of stuff, and then basically had a heart attack and died on his own. None of us were there. None of us, you know, purposely caused any of that. But it's like, you know, karma comes back on people. And the person who stole my tools, I could guarantee you right now, is going to suffer for it. I mean, one way or another, they're going to suffer for it. And the way that suffering ends is to get my stuff back and make things right with people. Figure out a way to make things right with people. I have not always treated everybody the way I should have treated them, probably. And to some degree, I try to make it up to people. Other situations, I've treated people in a way that they asked to be treated, and I'm not sorry for it. Okay, I'm not sorry for that. If somebody needed a little bit of boot camp, they got a little bit of boot camp. And there's reasons for it. And it's also among these things that, yeah, we sort these issues out in life, but when we sort them out and shit hit the fan, the consequences are a lot higher. And sometimes they're more immediate and examples need to be made. Fortunately for people who, for their sake, didn't do something that, you know, I would consider a death penalty offense. There are other people who have, and they've gotten their karma. Okay. Now, I could say this for any, like, feds who think they're going to investigate me for something. Okay, I wasn't there when any of those things happened. And you're already reading all my fucking emails and all that shit. So, you know, whatever, man. You can come to whatever conclusions you think you want. But, you know, the reality is I'm not saying anything out there in the universe changes according to me. I'm saying that I'm a part of it, of what happens in the universe, and when somebody decides that I need to be their victim and a whole bunch of bad luck comes their way because they took action based on their free will to go ahead and decide I need to be their victim, dare I name names, but the reality is I didn't do it to those people. Okay, in many respects they did it to themselves. And there were a lot of people who thought I was being arrogant and pointing that out. And I'm just telling you what it is, okay? And I'm not daring anybody to do anything. I'm just telling you what it is. And that's what it is. And the way you stop all that bad luck is you make things right, okay? You better start doing something that's a good karma thing with your life, because otherwise it doesn't even stop when you die. Okay, that's what the afterlife and eternal stuff is a lot of part about. And if you've done a lot of these things, running from it only kind of delays the inevitable. And you know, you're going to learn these lessons now. You're going to learn them in the afterlife. You can learn them in the painful way or the easy way. But I think you know who you are. And if you're offended by something I said, too fucking bad. Okay, there's no little white collar thing here, so I'm not obligated to refrain from strip clubs and cussing and all that kind of stuff. But I can tell you some certain ways about the world and the universe works that they are what they are. Okay, and when you do somebody wrong who's treated you right, you know, because you felt disrespected or something like that. Well, I wasn't even naming names in that video. But apparently you're watching my channel. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's better to make right, and respect for property is a good way to start. Okay, that's why I get to spend time in fancy mansions, and you probably don't. And that's, is my personal living quarters all that nice? Well, maybe not, but I got my own little comforting corner and all that kind of thing. And I don't own any of those big mansions. But one of the reasons people respect me, I respect them, is because I respect their property. I do. I respect people's rightful property. And I don't go calling it wrongful because I've decided to psychoanalyze a personality or something like that. You're no better than the government we criticize when you pull stunts like that, especially. But it's also one of those things that Mark Pornkey used to talk about, was you don't get punished for the good things, you don't get punished for the evil you do, you get punished for the good you do, at least in this world. But I can tell you that we don't always wait for the next world to come for everything to settle out. I've seen a lot of things in my life settle out in the here and now. And that's something that I think somebody out there who knows who they are needs to straighten out with themselves and the people around them.